gentleman on the other side of the screen is Mr. Richard Singh. Richard Singh was born on the west coast of Berbice, Guyana in 1979. He received the associate degree in pharmacy from the University of Guyana in 2002 and the diploma in social work in 2009 from the University of Guyana. He migrated to the USA in 2010 and received his BSW in social work from the University of Fordham, his MSW in social work from the University of Columbia, USA. Richard, when you think of yourself, what qualities come to mind? Or when someone asks you to describe yourself?
Humble. Very humble individual, down to earth, passionate about what I do. Those are just some of the adjectives they used to describe me.
Very good. I want to go back in your early timeline.
Yes.
Please give us a glimpse of Richard, of your life growing up in Guyana at ages 9 and 16.
During that age, I spent majority of the time of my life on the sugar estates. My dad was a dispenser, and we would move from estate to estate. So I spent around that era at Lusignan. Then we moved to Albion Estate, and then we came down to LBI. So majority of my life, I spent actually on the estates, and all my friends were pretty much also on the estate. Some of them outside. Life growing up was pretty good. I can't complain. I mean, we were fortunate to have access to the clubs, the swimming pools, recreational facilities. So that actually helped me to, in terms of personal growth and development. I really had some good friends. Some of them I'm still in contact with up until this age. So that's my life. It was very good, but still challenging at the time because around 16, that is when I was actually trying to discover myself, find my identity. And I went through that process, and that process really took a lot out of me because for me, trying to find oneself within a community and realizing that there's so much to you that you tend to ask and question about life in self generally. And you try to reach out to people who have similarities with yourself. So that was one of my challenging things growing up between the ages, let's say around 14 to 16, coming into that adolescent age, trying to identify, find my personality.
Who are some people that come to mind who have influenced this man we have come to know as Richard Singh?
Wow, there's a lot. I have some good family friends, the Stone family, Sarju family, Raghunandan family. These are people, and there are many more. These are people who actually, if you want to say, helped raise me, develop. In terms of, when I say develop, they mold and shape me. When we talk about morals, values, these are all people who instill these things in me. And I had more than one mother and father and grandparents. So that really helped me because when you talk about diversity, for me, coming from Guyana, I had that diversity because there were people, all walks of life, that my mom and my dad allowed me to engage with. And that really helped me to develop myself. And that's a good question you asked because even to this day, I still owe a lot of those people. Because where I'm at today, right now, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And those are persons that actually came from my early childhood days.
So it really does take a village.
Yes, it does. It does. And even on to this day, I mean, I still, in my existence, my being, I actually reach out to many of my friends who actually have families and those who I met along the way. You know, like I have a really good friend, Roger Gordon. He's been my rock right there from since 92, no, not 92, 2000, around 2000, right? So, yes, it does take a village.
What is your fondest memories of your parents?
Wow, my fondest memories. My fondest memories would have to be growing up as a child, and when it comes to birthdays, my parents, they always make sure as a child growing up that they try to provide. It was tough back then, and this is like my early childhood. I didn't understand what my parents were doing and the things that they actually had to go through in the late 80s and mid 80s. But they make sure that I had what I needed for my development. You know, they invested in me. They make sure I understood what the world is about. They sheltered me to some extent, but still it exposed me to life in general. And those are my fondest memories, because if it wasn't for that and what they did, I would have never actually look at myself now and look at my achievements and have that, if you want to say, that path to walk. So they set that path, and I'm so grateful for it.
You mentioned just now it takes a village,
Yes.
so we can't ignore the elders.
No.
Guyana is a place in the various communities that is rich in proverbs and adages and all these wonderful quotes that is passed on from generation to generation to sort of guide us. Any particular words of wisdom from your parents that still resonate with you today?
A few, but one of it actually, if I may spin that a little bit more, um, my dad and my mom, they always tell me stories about their hardship in life, right? And they always said that if they were a little well off in terms of financial, they would have gone the whole distance in terms of education. So they always tell me, you know, take your education, son. Right? That is one thing that I always remember, and even on to this day, because for me, that what they actually started, it passed from generation. And like how you mentioned, my four parents didn't have the opportunity, of course, to go to school, but like my grandmother from my father's side, she did every single thing, worked in the rice fields, give her son the opportunity to go to school, but he can only go so far. My father passed that torch on to me, and now I have that opportunity, and I made use of those opportunities. And I am so happy also for my mom, for her parents. They didn't go far in school, but from the stories that I've heard, they made sure that their kids get the best education. So those are the little stories that I have. But that one thing, take your education, son. I keep hearing that over and over in my mind.
Pharmacy, Richard. How did this journey in pharmaceuticals or pharmacy get started for you?
When I was a young child at the age of 3 years of age, my dad, like I mentioned earlier, he's a dispenser back home. And when I finished school, I think it was like 12 or 1 o'clock, I would go into the dispensary just to be there with him. And he would have me like to count tablets and just stand there, just listen. And after a while, when he started to do his diagnosis, I would pick up on stuff. So I would know, you know what? Oh, wait, this is what they probably need. So I would go pick up the medication, and then after you tell me, yes, correct one, or no, wrong one. So growing up with my dad in the healthcare system and being around the healthcare system, generally speaking, I had this passion in me whereby, okay, I want to be like my dad. You know, he's one of my heroes, and I want to be exactly like my dad. So when I got the opportunity to go to university, I decided to basically pick pharmacy. But to go along with that, the reason why I picked pharmacy, I wanted to help people. I saw my dad help a lot of people within our communities. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be like him, right? It's not all about what you get in terms of financial gain. It's about helping the people. And during his era, and even up to now, a pharmacist pretty much is seen as someone who is very important to your community, or a dispenser, because they help people. They do it from their kind heart. You have to have the passion and the desire to do this thing. And I decided to do pharmacy because I said, you know what, I can help people, right?
Yet you transitioned
Yes.
into social work.
Yes.
Weren't you helping enough in pharmacy? What caused this? What was the trigger?
What caused this? After I finished my studies in pharmacy and I graduated in 2002, I had a hard time getting jobs. So I decided to do volunteer with Youth Challenge Guyana. I always wanted to do it. And I took about almost like a year. And I traveled, my first journey with Youth Challenge Guyana took me into Region 1. Port Kaituma, and that's the first time I've seen life, experienced life beyond the shores. When I say the shores, the coastal plain, and it was interesting for me. And as I travel and I see things there, and my second journey took me to Region 9, Latam, and down to a village called Aishalton. I spent 2 months on that project, and I started to see things, what was happening, and I realized there were a lot of injustices, and there was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of misrepresentation from the government and government officials. There was not a lot in the healthcare system for these people. And I decided, I said, pharmacy is not going to cut it. I don't think it's going to cut it. I'm not going to get a chance to help people. But I want to keep that health background because I think it would actually help me. And I'm so glad I did. So eventually, after my second project that ended in around March, late March, I decided to say, you know what? Let me do a full year of volunteer. Let me travel. I have an opportunity with Ushanj Ghana to see my country. It's free, and there's a lot of places I couldn't afford to go. And that really brought a lot of light for me because what I saw was totally different from what was in the media.
All right, Richard. Let me, you know, people have heard me say this in this program oftentimes that we are gems with many facets, and what I like to do is to twist the gem and expose the various facets.
Yes.
You're this young man. You're working as a farm tech or pharmacist. You're making money.
Yeah, farm tech.
Right?
Yes.
And now you decide that let me volunteer.
Yeah.
Less of income.
Yeah.
That is commendable.
Thank you.
Where did this come from? Your parents, where did this come from of making this kind of sacrifice for others?
My parents, they always instilled that in me. No matter what, always walk where those who are less fortunate, go with those people. In life, and from also my ancestors and my foreparents, the message passed on to my parents is this. Knowledge is something that you don't own. Knowledge is something that you're blessed with. You should use that skill that you have to help others, not only for financial gain. For some people do that, I respect that. But for me and my family, what they taught me is this. If you have something, which is knowledge and skills, go out into the community, go out and help people. And that's where it came from, because for me, I realized that if I'm going to grow as an individual, right, I need to understand how the world operates. And I need to basically take it in and give it back. Nothing that I have received so far in my life, I own. It goes back into the universe. And that's one of the things that my parents really instilled in me. And I believe that's passed on to them through generations and generations.
You moved to migrated to the United States. You didn't relax. You went on, got your 2 degrees. Congratulations, by the way, because it takes a lot.
Yes.
But before I go into the academic aspect of you, how did these 2 cultures, would you say, shaped you? Well, let me just leave the question there. How did these 2 cultures shape you?
It was tough. Coming from Guyana, you're accustomed to a particular culture, right? There's 6 races, if I should use it that way. Now, you're accustomed to whereby your neighbor would cook, your friends, you go over, you eat, right? If you need a place to sleep in the night, if anything, there's the fruit tree and so forth. That lifestyle that you have back home is much more free, right? You enjoy the sun, you enjoy your friends, you come home, there's less stress, you don't have to worry about a lot. When I was there, that is. Now, migrating to the United States is all about, you have to have your priorities straight, you have to have a plan, right? And that really put me in a direction whereby I wasn't prepared for it totally, although to some extent my parents was there for the moral support. What ended up happening when I came here, I realized that if I'm going to survive here, right, I need to change my attitude. I need to actually adapt some of the qualities and adapt some of the culture that is within the United States. It was hard for me because you're accustomed to one way of life. And to go through that process, there was a lot of anxiety, stressful moments, and there were moments whereby you even felt depressed. So for me, it was really hard. And I tell a lot of my friends, if you're going to migrate to the United States, right, prepare yourself. Give yourself at least about 3 years to get familiarized, to adapt to the American culture. By the time 5 years, you're going to be okay, right? But do not think this place is the Big Apple. The Big Apple, you have to work for it. It's not easy.
Well, in Guyana, you worked as a pharmacist and a social worker at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital,
Yes.
as a HIV/AIDS counselor, tester for USAID, GARP, and Youth Challenge Guyana. How did these various occupations contribute to your passion for social work?
As I mentioned, when I did my approximately like 1 year volunteer with Youth Challenge Guyana, that actually led to a lot of opportunities. And one of the things that I've learned is that all of Guyana, you don't have a lot of opportunities. You have to cultivate opportunities for yourself. And I learned that from the project that I actually did. And I give a lot of credit to, we call ourselves SRP, Sweet Rupununi Pork Knockers. There were 13 of us, Canadians, Australians, and I was the only Guyanese on that project. And I remember my good friend Carla and Rodney, who were my group leaders, they said to me, you know what, dream big, dare to dream, and make those dreams a reality. You know, generally cultivate those opportunities that you can make. So what I started to do is I started to look for opportunities, look for avenues, and eventually one thing led to another. But within the context at that time, it took a lot of months to actually reach that goal. So what I started to do is try to look for other opportunities. So one thing led to another. I got in with the USAID, started doing HIV counseling testing with them, built my portfolio up, did a lot of work, continued to travel, and after that I realized that, here, this is my opportunity. This is gonna pay my school for me to go back to do my social work. Actually, I wanted to do the degree, finish off my degree, but as soon as I finished the diploma, I got an opportunity to come to the United States. So going back, after I did the stint with USAID, they were shifting their program to another bidder. So the project got pushed over to Youth Challenge Guyana. So I continued my work with Youth Challenge Guyana, and eventually I outgrown those avenues, and I wanted to bring the two professions together, social work and pharmacy. And St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, they give me that opportunity whereby I could be a pharmacist and a social worker with one of their programs, the HIV programs that they were running there. So for me, it was a really good experience to finally cultivate something and see it through. That's my point, because you have to have vision in this life, and you have to have belief and faith that you can do it. And I was the only person at that time who actually, from pharmacy, went that route, because a lot of my friends, they went into management. Not a lot of them did what I did, right? And I'm proud of myself. I had a lot of support from my parents, but the whole point, coming back again, true volunteerism, that really helped me to see the light. And that light actually changed my life. And yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me how doors are open when you're willing to give of yourself.
Exactly.
Because hadn't you gone into the interior and seen the conditions of the people in the Charlatan and some of these remote areas, you would not have been inspired to go into social work.
Definitely.
But here you are, a pharmacist and a social worker. What would you say are some positives the intersection of those two disciplines create for you?
One of the things as a social worker, I'm not trained in clinical, but there's a part of social work that deals with medications or deal with prescriptions, generally speaking. So that's the advantage with me. And that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to continue to build my career with, is that I can actually work as a social worker and understand when you have to come to someone who's taking medications, right? Especially if you're doing anything to do with psych, right? You are able to understand pathology, you're able to understand, look, these are the stuff that the person have to take, counsel them on the medication, let them know it's okay. And you're bringing two professions that is very rare, whereby you can sit and say, look, I can work in the health field, but I also have a background in pharmacy, right? I am going to be one of your only or probably a few individuals who can do more. You can get more out of me.
What has been gratifying about the social work journey you've embarked on so far?
I'm just a little bit, I'm going back in my head, but I'm just going to say it out. My journey throughout that time being a social worker with gratification you speak of is just the look on people's faces when you listen to them. People just want someone to listen to them. They want to know that you care. Right? Spend some time with them. Share your personal stories. Share their stories. Acknowledge their presence, their existence. And don't forget them. I've met a lot of people through my journey in Guyana, and each and every single one of those individuals, I still remember them. Right? And for me, that's a gratification to know that you touch someone's life. You give of yourself unconditionally without expecting anything in return. Because that's the oath that you take as a social worker. You do for that human rights and social justice. That's what it's about.
What were your parents' reaction when you introduced them to this new career path? Let's start with that first.
Okay, that's a good one. Well, being one of the grandchild from both ends of my family, they always wanted me to actually go into medicine because it's the dream, you know, it's that torch that is passed on from generation to generation, that education that was denied by one generation from the slavery days and move forward. So they wanted me to do along that line of medicine. And when I told them I'm going to do social work, I was like, we are doing social work, you know? They weren't too sure, they didn't really understand it because in Guyana, you don't really talk much about being a social worker. You talk about being a doctor, you talk about being a lawyer, a politician, and so forth. So they weren't too happy at it in the beginning, all right? And even coming to the United States, my parents were a little hesitant about it. You gonna get a job? You know, like, what's your salary gonna be like? I'm like, don't worry about it. This is what I love. I found my calling. This is what it's really about. This journey for me started in 2002 through volunteering, and it brought me here. And all I know, this is what I have to do. And I'm comfortable with this. They accepted it, and I think when both of my graduations, when I looked and I saw them and their faces, my mom and my dad, you know, they were standing up and they're like, yay! And that was good enough, you know. I knew that they accepted this transition for me and they actually see like I'm doing a lot and I'm happy. And that's the most important thing. They wanted for me to see me happy, doing something that's going to make me happy in this life.
Here is this young man, their son, Richard Jr., so amazing, right? So much into giving back to the community. A father who has done that most of his life, give back. If you were to eavesdrop the two of them, telling a stranger about you, what do you think either of them would say? How would they describe you?
They would definitely say, I'm proud of my son. You know, he took his education, he did everything. My dad always tell me, I've been through a lot in this life. There's a lot of challenges and adversities that I faced, and I overcome them. And he's proud of me that I came so far. I was alone when my parents migrated here, and my dad always tell me and my mom that I didn't turn the other path, the other direction. I did what I actually said I was going to do, and I stuck my guns out right through every single time.
About that, how, with all the distractions for a young man growing up in there, especially in the absence of parents, of the authority, how did you stay on the right track?
A few things, and I can't help but saying that the way that I was brought up, the way that my parents taught me how to do things and believe that they can leave me alone there to continue this journey, they had faith in me. So growing up as a child, they instilled this in me and let me understand that, look, just toe the line, do the right thing. Don't turn to crime, violence, or anything like that. You're a special kid. You have a dream. They introduced me to other family members, good friends, showed me life, what life can actually be if you just be patient and willing to make sacrifices, sometimes personal sacrifices. And that is just some of the things that my parents, really told me and reminded me through this process and through this journey for me.
I want to go back again to Guyana
Yeah,
before you migrated. Again, you're young, you're free.
yeah.
You have all sorts of things at your disposal. You're good looking. Your parents not there. But what about those days when you didn't feel like getting up to do what you need to do? You didn't feel like continuing. What got you out of that mindset? What or who?
A couple of things. I go back to my history, my family history. My great aunt, who always told me a story. She can't remember a lot of it, but she told me our ancestors came from Africa. And on that journey in the slave ships, there was a lady that gave birth to a child. And during child labor, she died. And that child was suckled by people on that ship. If it wasn't for that individual that was born, I would not be here today. That story goes back there. And then it moved forward for me, whereby my dad and my mom would tell me stories about my grandfather and my grandmother from both ends. The sacrifice that they made for them. There was no pressure at all. But for me, I long for my foreparents to learn more about them, my ancestors. Because I felt that for me to survive in this world, I need to understand the history, the culture, what it actually meant for them. Because I always believe that nothing that you have today is you, like you own it. It's something that keep passing on to generation, and pass on to my kids as it come by. So, yeah.
Richard, take us to that platform.
Yeah.
When you received your certificate, your master's degree, and you're standing there. At that particular moment, what are you thinking about?
Well, if I have liberty in saying this right now, I say it. And what I was thinking is this, all right? I remembered when I stood there, received my certificate, part one is over. I got what I wanted. Part two now is actually putting it into action. And putting it into action means not only going back into my country, Guyana, to serve those who are, if you want to say, have the injustice or the economic situation being affected. But for me, I want to actually go back there. And for me, at that point in time, all I could think about is, hey, for those who told me that I couldn't do it, for those who told me I have no value, no education, I'm like, I have something of substance now to come to show you that I have the education, I have the skills and the knowledge to change the way things were back then that I've seen. And for me, I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to go back. I'm sitting here, perching, waiting like an eagle for the opportunity to just basically go back.
Richard, you're dropping so many pours of wisdom and consciousness here tonight, and I applaud you for that. But for those who say, go back to Guyana, Richard, with all the opportunities that lie in this land, for you to become richer and wealthier and all those things, what is the pull of Guyana? Why?
What I saw and what I've experienced in Guyana would always be something that will live with me for a very long time. Like the expression goes, the experience lasts a lifetime.
Mm.
And I attribute every single thing that I have to my birthplace, my land, Guyana.
Wow.
And there's no way that I can take that away, because for all my journeys that I have took part, for every single thing that I've experienced, the people are still there. Some are alive, some are dead, God rest their soul, but they're still within me, those who have gone forth. For me, it's always going to be that place that I always want to go back to, because that is where I actually started this journey. And that journey would end right there. From every region that I've traveled, for every person that I've met, for all the friends who stood by me, one of the things, if I'm going to sum it up this way, every life that I've actually met or touched is reciprocated back. And for me to understand that I can come here, yes, and stay here, but what's the use? For me, it doesn't make sense for me, because this journey was never about that in the first place. This journey was actually to take what I can have here and go back home, have the opportunity here and go back home. But the question is, how many persons back home are willing to listen to me, willing to be a part of my journey? That is the question.
Richard, let's take a break.